Any car can catch your eye. Most decent cars can grab your hearing. A lot of old cars can entice your sense of smell. It takes something truly special to do all three, and I believe this car does. This is a 1968 Z28 Camaro, but there's no way to prove that because Chevrolet didn't give the Z28 a VIN code until 1969. The first-gen Z28 was created for the Trans Am series and came from the factory with a race-legal 302 cubic inch small block V8, 4-speed manual transmission, and some other parts purpose-built for road course racing. Not much of that matters for the purpose of this video, since almost nothing you see here is original to this car. Here's why that's the case. In short, this car spent a lot of time on the racetrack. However, not the kind of racetrack it was designed for. This car was bought new in 1968, driven off the dealer lot, and taken into the garage. There, the owner proceeded to take off every suspension upgrade that made the Z28 into a Trans Am car. He even cut off part of the A-arms and swapped the front disc brakes for drums to save weight. Then, the car designed to carve up road courses, as well as a car in the late 60s could, spent over a decade blasting down the quarter mile without ever even being titled. It wasn't until my dad bought the car in the early 90s and ran a title search on it that he found out the car was unregistered for so long. It turned out he knew the guy that titled the car first, so my dad gave him a call and found out that he was actually the original owner, but had sold the car and bought it back. Unfortunately, all of the original Z28 suspension parts were long gone, and the original engine had been grenaded, winding up to $9 grand over and over again on the drag strip. This is where I'll take a minute to talk about that engine. The 302 was one of the shortest-lived displacements of the Chevrolet small block. It was only made from 1967 to 1969, after which SCCA rules allowed for larger engines in Trans Am racing. That's a shame, since the 302 made way more power than advertised. Rated at only 290 gross horsepower, it easily cranked out north of 350 near 6,000 RPM. That was good enough for a low 13-second quarter mile, faster than just about anything made at the time. As most of you who clicked on this video probably know, 302 cubic inches is the result of putting a crank from the Chevy 283 into a 327 block. The famous double hump heads came from the high-performance version of the 327, and a special aluminum intake sat on top of them. The cherry on top was a thirsty Holley 780 CFM carburetor. A special air intake connected to the cowl was available on Z28s, and the hole it connected to is about the only way to show this Camaro was actually born as a Z28. Okay, now back to story time. This car spent a long time around the drag strip, as I already stated. Even after it was finally titled, it spent many more years lining up at the tree, eventually being driven by one of my dad's friends. My dad also drag raced for a long time, but he has never raced this car since he bought it. I didn't say he never raced it though, did I? Once upon a time, he did take it down the strip while his friend owned it, and here's a picture of my dad racing against the Camaro featured in this video, with the 67 Camaro he owned at the time. The car hasn't changed much since the restoration was finished about 25 years ago. It is built to resemble how it would have left the factory, with changes here and there. There are pretty much no Z28 suspension parts left, but it does have the right look on the outside. For whatever reason, the VIN tag will tell you that this car should have had a deluxe interior, which it no longer does, and there is a Hurst shifter inside connected to the 4-speed manual transmission. You won't find the original Type Muncie transmission here though, with a Borg-Warner Super T10 in its place. The engine is a 302 that's been made from a 350 block, but built to factory specs other than higher compression. Outback is a 390 geared GM 12-bolt with posit traction. People talk about a visceral driving experience. It doesn't get any more visceral than this. The racing clutch is merciless. The exhaust thunders through headers and dual cherry bombs. The brake pedal heaves through the master cylinder with no pansy power booster to the 4 manual drum brakes. The manual steering makes you work for every maneuver made at low speed, then rewards you for driving faster with the best steering you can expect from a stock steering box on a 49-year-old car. Going back to the racing clutch, I learned how to drive a stick shift in this car. As you may imagine, that didn't go well. It did, however, provide my dad with the opportunity to laugh at me while I tried in vain to make the car move. I have since improved, but I still have some work to do. One last interesting fact about this Camaro is that the odometer reads only 82 miles, which it has since 1968. The speedometer was disconnected when the car was turned into a race car and has never been hooked back up.